What?
There you go. No, now it's working.
All right. So what was that, Brandon?
He's like, say it again.
So I was sharing yesterday with a client about y'all specifically and how much y'all have helped me grow the business and where I started. And maybe y'all remember, I know y'all have got a lot of clients from 70 doors to where we are today. And I do attribute that to what I've learned from y'all.
Yeah, we've helped. Well, we appreciate that. Thanks for the little plug. So it'll be good to see you at DoorGrow Live. So for those of us, those of you just joining, we are kicking this off right now. So this is the masterclass. We're going to be talking about SEO today. So feel free to comment in the chat if you haven't already, what you're hoping to learn, gain from this. We will address any questions. Sarah will be helping me with the chat. And Giselle will be helping make sure people can get in for all you stragglers that are showing up late. And then, let's get into this. So I have an agenda that we'll get into today. And so the first thing is, I want to ask how many of you, by show of hands, would love to have the top spot on Google for whatever keywords you target? Yeah. Okay, cool. The rest of you don't care. That's cool. All right. So, yeah, me too, myself included. And we do have the top spot for some longer tail keywords. And we'll teach you a quick term real quick: long tail, short tail. So long tail means like best property manager in Tucson, Arizona would be more long term. Short tail might be property management or property management Tucson, So what we're going to get into today is we're going to chat about, I want you to be savvy buyers when it comes to marketing and when it comes to SEO. This is one of the greatest tools marketers have to take money out of your pocket, regardless of whether you're getting an ROI or not. It's always like SEO. SEO is the reason. So so let's see how sharp everybody is. What is SEO? Who knows what that means? Let's see who's first to type in the chat.
Seagulls entering ovulation?
No, it's definitely not seagulls entering ovulation, John.
Oh, man, I thought I had this one.
Answer
I guess I'll just go with search engine optimization then.
Search engine optimization. All right. So the idea is that if you optimize things enough, then you will get to the top spot on Google, right? Or the other search engines. And so the goal is to manipulate search engines to get to the top spot. So the question I want to ask all of you is, why would that even matter? Why would you want the top spot on Google? What are you hoping that this would do for your business? Let's get down to reality. Like what are you hoping to accomplish? Or those of you that are dreaming of having that top spot on Google, what do you think would happen once you get there? Let's see. We've got catch more search results, click through leads, contact us leads. Cool. So we'll address that. So how many of you would like more leads by show of hands? Okay, let me ask a different question. How many of you would like more leads from plumbers calling you to try and get you to do business with them by show of hands? No? Okay. I even got a thumbs down. Wow. All right. So how many of you would like to get more tire kickers and time wasters that will probably never sign up with you by show of hands? These are all leads, by the way, right? Not all leads are equal. And no hands went up for those that watch the recording later. So just having the top spot on Google can get you more leads, but it's not always more of the leads that you want necessarily. And so we'll get into that. So if you stick around, I'm going to explain to you some things that might be better than SEO and some of the reasons marketers are able to take advantage of you, because you are not really clear on what you want and you're not really clear on the difference in the type of leads that they're claiming that they're going to get you. Does this make sense so far? Okay. So, let's talk about this. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I can share my my iPad here. So some of y'all like when I do drawings, I've noticed. So I'll try and draw some stuff today. All right. So just real quick, if you aren't familiar with DoorGrow, I know a lot of you are clients that we're helping grow. I do see some new faces, and there'll definitely be people watching this later that have not worked with us yet. So we're the world leaders in property management growth. We have more case studies and testimonials than any other consultant or coach in the property management industry, period. We're the best. And I feel confident claiming that we can help people grow their doors and without having to waste money on internet marketing. And we can help you deal with the operational challenges and scale. We've helped clients go from every major sticking point or stage from 0 to over 1,000. And we can help any of you wherever you're at in your business. I've been doing this for over a decade. Here's a quick example. This is Kent, who signed up last year. And you can see that he started with 0 doors. And then we started him working on our growth accelerator. And he got a tattoo on his wrist because him and I had a conversation about 10Xing his business, and which lit a fire under him. That's my first tattoo client. If there's any other tattoo clients, let me know. But anyway, he was at 105 doors in 6 months, and he did it without worrying about advertising, trying to get to the top spot on Google, which probably would have taken him years longer, and wasting a bunch of money on cold, crappy leads or internet marketing. Okay. I'm just going to skip through these. We've got lots. Here's a good one. Foundation. They went from 455 units with us in 2 years. They were over 1,000 units, broke the 1,000 door barrier, which is super awesome. And yeah, we helped them get a good operator running the operations piece. And then they have a really good BDM. So Michael Sullivan, we helped him double his doors and double his profit margin. That's like a 4 times increase. And this is not difficult to do in property management. So Jeff Garner went from 150 to 420 in 4 months. He was in our super system level of our mastermind. And so we focused on helping him replace his team, and he did an acquisition, and which is pretty awesome. And there's lots more. John, you're on here too. All right.
John.
There you go, John. Look at you and your wife.
And
you guys look great.
Wife.
And all right, cool. So let's get into, I want to skip this. So real quick, we've cracked the code on growth. This is kind of our roadmap for how we grow and scale companies through each of the stages. And we know the problems that exist at each stage, and we know what you need to stop doing at each stage, because sometimes getting to the next level means you have to stop doing something you've been doing that's working because it's keeping you captive, and then what systems you need at each stage. So if you'd like a copy of this DoorGrow code, feel free to DM me or message me on any social media and say, hey, I'd love to see your DoorGrow code. We have a whole training on this as well, if that's of interest to any of you. And then just to give you a little background, because you're like, who's this Jason guy and why should I listen to him, and who's Sarah? So my personal mission in life is to inspire others to love true principles. So what that means is I love figuring out what works and sharing it with others. So I created DoorGrow to feed my addiction to learning and growth. And I spend a lot of money on masterminds, coaches, mentors, books, etc. And I always have multiple coaches at a time. I believe in coaching, and I have coaches. And there's a lot of coaches out there in this industry that do not have coaches. Which I think is quite hypocritical. All right. So I want to say so much about that, but I'm going to not, because we want to focus on SEO. All right. So our mission statement, our purpose at DoorGrow is to transform property management business owners and their businesses. I know if I can change you, I can change your team, I can change your business, and I can change the world, because you all have a large impact with a lot of people. So I'm going to skip through all this stuff. This is stuff I've used in the past, but what I want to do, I want to draw. Let's draw. Okay.
Are you on Do Not Disturb?
Yep.
So your phone doesn't ring.
I am. I'm prepared. All right. Sarah's making sure I'm prepared. All right. So here's something I want to show you or explain. So you can check this out on your own to verify this. So what I want to do is, actually, I want to do this first. So let's talk about why SEO. Why do you want to do this? Well, a lot of people will say they want leads. But if you only could get leads and you had a 0% close rate and could get no deals, would that be okay with you? Would you just want leads? No. Okay. So what do we really want? What do we want? And feel free to unmute and say something because it's easier sometimes than looking at the chat. But what are you hoping that you get? Because I don't think at the end of the day you can cash. You can turn search results directly into cash, right? Choices. All right. Well, I'm guessing all of you want more doors and good clients, right? Is this, yeah? Okay.
Yes, better clients.
Better clients. Thanks, Kathy. All right. So this is what we want. We want better clients and more clients, right? And so you can do plenty of lead gen and attract lots of crappy clients. Anyone ever had a crappy client before? Yeah, you should all raise your hand. Otherwise, you have some right now. I guarantee it. All right. So if you can't tell, you probably have some. All right. So we don't want more crappy clients, right? A crappy client, just to be clear, if you take on a bad client, the operational costs on these is going to be really high. I'm guessing some of you have a client right now that is costing you more than you're making off of them time-wise, especially if you have a team. They're eating up resources, they're wasting your money, and their properties are probably terrible to deal with. And you're spending more money on these than you are actually making. And so we don't want just any client. And then if you have bad clients, you're going to have bad properties. So I'm going to try and draw a boards real quick and a stinky fly, flying around, right? So you don't want crappy properties. If you have crappy properties, that's going to lead to having crappy and upset residents and tenants. And now you're a shit shield for a slumlord. Anybody want to be a shit shield? It's pretty gross, right? Nobody wants to be that. And then this is going to give you bad reviews, right? Because the owners are not really great. They're not happy. The properties don't look really great or have issues. And then the tenants are like difficult and frustrated and upset, even if you do all the tenant screening in the world. And then you're going to have a bad reputation in the marketplace. And guess what you attract more of? And this is what I typically see comes from people that hyper focus on SEO. Because why? Why would this be the case? So here's something that's super important. I call this the cycle of suck. This is the property management cycle of suck. And to get out of it, we need to have a different methodology at each stage. The most important stage is the owners. That's the beginning of everything. You can do all the tenant screening in the world. They could have A-grade credit, but the owner's bad, the property's bad, then the tenant's not going to be happy, right? And you're going to have bad reviews. How many of you know that you or feel you're the best company in your market? Yeah. So what you're saying is all the other companies in your market probably suck, right? I hear this all the time. Oh, yeah, John's like, yes. So there's a lot of crappy property management companies. I've made a living out of rehabilitating struggling and difficult property management companies. And I don't think any of these business owners woke up in the morning and are like, man, I want to have a crappy company. I don't think that's their goal. But this is the default of what happens when we play difficult games that are difficult to win, that give us crappy prizes, right? You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, right? So the industry as a whole has a bad reputation because of this. It makes it harder for all of you that have good businesses, you all have good businesses, I hope, to grow your business because the perception is so bad. So let's talk about marketers. So marketers lie. I don't believe it's intentional. They believe probably in what they're doing. There's a book by Seth Godin that's all marketers are liars, and it's like crossed out and tell stories or something like that. I don't know. But the idea is what's the lie? Well, there's kind of a lie of omission. And here's what I want you to understand about search engine optimization. So this is the entire market that might be available. And well, let's do this first. I want you to be able to see this. So if you go to, and you can do this if you want to, trends.google.com, and you search for property management, spell it out correctly, but I'm going to abbreviate it. And then you go to the dates and you backdate it to 2004 when Google started tracking data to the present. What you will see is it looks kind of like this: lump, 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 lump. And this is every summer. Oops, 2 M's. There you go. This is where it spikes every summer. And this is winter. Oops, I just erased it. There we go. And this is winter, right? And it dips. And what you'll notice is over time, search volume has not increased. Search volume has not gotten bigger for property management. And if you compare it to any other major keyword like credit card or loans or real estate or anything, what you'll see is that the search volume, it almost doesn't even register. It's so little. There's very few people searching actively right now for property management. Marketers don't tell you this. They don't say, hey, let me show you how crappy like search volume is for property management. So here's the other piece to this, though. The other piece to this, though, is to recognize who are the people that are searching on Google. Who are the people that are searching? So let's say we've got the whole available of all the people that could exist in like as a property management client. And the first big hit usually is awareness. So let's say these people, like half of them are aware. And then out of those that are aware, maybe half of them have a good like belief or perception about property management. So then there's the perception issue that takes a hit. And then out of those that have a decent perception, then because if they're not aware of property management, they're not going to look for property management, right? They're not aware. They're like, I don't know what a property manager is or what they do or that they could help me with this rental. Perception means they have a negative perception. And so they're like, I'm not going to use a property manager. They just like collect rent and like steal from me their fees and mark up maintenance and they're terrible. Right. And so there's this negative perception. And then out of the perception issue, let's see here. Then there's word of mouth, right? How many of you love word of mouth business? Yeah. Right? Big difference, right? Big difference. Word of mouth. So after word of mouth, these circles are getting a little crazy. All right, let's do this. This is the red bloody water. I know it's kind of hot pink, but these are my brand colors. So that's what we're working with. All right. So here, this is the red bloody water. This is where SEO people will finally start looking on Google. So what you have to realize is they're at the end of the sales cycle, right? So here they're less price sensitive, and here price is a lot more painful to them, right? They become more and more price sensitive. So basically what you're looking at is this filtration system that at the end gives you the most difficult, shittiest, worst prospects. These are the ones searching on the internet that view you like a commodity. They think you're all the same, and they're looking for the cheapest ones. How many of you are tired of talking to cheapo owners? 60% of buyers, according to studies, 60% are what I categorize as normals. Cheapos are far smaller than that, maybe like 18%, something like that. And the smallest group are premium buyers, premium. So there's plenty of business out there. The other thing to be aware of is there's no scarcity. It feels like scarcity if you're playing this game, but there are 70%, at least in single family residential, 70% are self-managing. 70%. That means only about 30% are using a PM currently, and it's really difficult to get them to use you. It's really difficult to get somebody to jump ship from another company. They have to be in really bad pain, like the company stole from them, or they got in a big legal battle or something usually, right? But there's no scarcity. There's tons of business, but they're not over here in the red bloody water searching. The best ones, these are the shitty scraps that fall off my client's word of mouth table, right? That's like the word of mouth table. This is the scraps that fall off. And that's how most companies are trying to build their business and spend all this money on SEO. So hopefully just all of this combined, you recognize there's this difference. Now these, if you can capture people out here in the blue ocean, these are much better prospects because there's way less competition. You're creating relationships of trust with them, and you're bypassing some of these issues. You're creating the awareness. They're not looking at other companies, and so you're getting warmer leads, which means you can charge more money. You can close more deals more easily at a higher price point. The question is, how do I get clients outside of Google? That's a whole nother conversation that we can help you with outside of that. Here's another thing I want you to understand about the idea of SEO. Okay, so let's talk about, this is a hat. And let's talk about white hat, and let's talk about black hat. Okay, another SEO term that SEO people don't want to tell you about. All right, so white hat, black hat in SEO. You can look up these terms and what they mean, but basically black hat means you're doing shady shit, and this is going to get you banned by Google eventually or blocked. Google hates black hat, right? Today's white hat tactics for SEO are tomorrow's black hat tactics for SEO. Does this make sense? Google's always trying to outsmart the search engine optimizers. They're always trying to outsmart. This is very important to understand. So what that means is, and how often does Google update their algorithm? Probably daily to some degree. Like they're probably using AI to optimize it now, but they're always optimizing. And sometimes they release major sweeping updates and it hurts people. Like everybody hated when Penguin version came out and other updates to their algorithm. The thing is I've seen people do a bunch of stuff with internet marketers, hiring people in India to do stuff. And then there's an update and then boom, they've lost everything. They've even been removed from Google. I had a guy that did, like, one of the tactics back in the day, how Google was sort of built was it was all about like how many links inbound were linking to your website. It was like, how many people are pointing at you saying you're cool, right? So what did SEO people start to do? They started to do backlinks, all these backlinking. They would go to pay guys in India or the Philippines, and they would just create a whole bunch of links, garbage links pointing to their site. This guy had thousands of backlinks. It's nearly impossible to get these links removed from directories. It's nearly impossible. Once they're in there, it's really hard to get them removed. I mean, it's like sending thousands of emails and praying they remove you, and they have no motivation to do so in these really crappy directories. So Google then started ranking these different backlinks. So it started giving backlinks kind of a quality score. So it's like, oh, this shady site in India like looks really spammy and gross, so we're going to make this a negative impact. So then it was kind of the opposite for some of these people that played that game. I saw a guy come to me and he was like, I've been doing this backlinking thing and everything. We had the top spot on Google, and now my site has been removed from Google and my domain's blacklisted. Could you help me build a whole new website? So you want to be careful, because the thing about search engine optimization companies that they don't want to tell you is that usually in the very beginning, when they're like some, super nerd, I'm going to make some glasses here. There's some super nerd and like almost alien. And then they're learning all the SEO stuff and what's the latest trend and what's super cool. They eventually start to build a business and build a team. And how many of you have gone from being a solopreneur to building a team? All right. How many of you thought that was a fun transition period? Okay. Yeah, me neither. It's hard. It's one of the most difficult things we help clients get through, is this transition from solopreneur to the team sort of challenge. And so they have these problems too. So as they start to build out teams, they start to take this knowledge that's fresh and that's white hat, and then they start to build systems and processes and checklists. And then they start to give it to their team members, who really are, in order to be profitable, are like low-level people that are like really cheap and not doing great stuff. So they give it to them. And they're not super bright. And so they're having to just follow the checklist, and they're following this. And so they build these processes. And eventually this guy he's no longer the super nerd. He's out of touch, and their systems are out of touch. And eventually some of these things become black hat, and then they're scrambling. To like clean up messes. They blame the algorithm, or they blame Google, and they just weren't keeping on top of things. So I'm going to share with you the greatest secret related to SEO that I think exists, and that's super important to understand. So does anybody have an idea what Google's goal is? What does Google want?
Money.
Well, yes, they want money.
Money, and a lot of it.
Anyone want to expand on that? What is Google trying to accomplish with these algorithms and with the search engine? All right. Quality search results. Yeah. For who? Who's Google trying to please? Well, all these people are trying to please Google and manipulate Google. The consumer to be the #1 search engine. Ad rates. Yes. They want to sell ads for sure, right? This is how Google makes money. They sell ad space. They want to sell ads. So there's like the pay-per-click Google ads stuff. Then there's, the organic rankings. But the ultimate goal of all this, in order for them to get people to use Google and to get people to keep Google the top search engine, they need to give people relevant results. They need to give people the best stuff. So who is Google trying to please? People, right? Google's trying to please people while people are trying to please Google. And so if you want to shortcut this and avoid being, getting the ban hammer, as they call it, by Google and getting blacklisted, is if your strategy is always to please people, then it makes sense, right? So if we're pleasing people versus Google, right? And we're not instead of trying to manipulate Google, we're pleasing people, then what that means is you will not get blacklisted. You won't get the ban hammer. And over time, this will be the most white hat and the most effective thing in the long run to do. Does this make sense? So this isn't about keyword stuffing articles. This isn't about putting a bunch of links to different keywords at the footer of your website. These are all outdated tactics, by the way. This isn't about like making sure there's so much keyword optimization throughout your site, and you say that like Phoenix property management 300 times on your homepage, right? Google is smarter than all of this stuff. The goal is to please people. Google pays attention and knows how long people spend on your website. They know how long they're looking at a page. They know where people came from. They have crazy algorithms where they know people's intent. They can tell by which pages they move from and to what their goal is. So the easiest shortcut in the short term, the black hats will beat you out, right? They will manipulate Google and figure out a hack that's working right now. They're always testing stuff. But in the long run, it doesn't generally pan out or like bode well. And so some companies just have the top spot on Google because they've just been around for like 2 decades, and they've just always focused on the consumer. Okay. So this is the biggest secret. The biggest secret I can teach you is please people. Make your goal the same goal that Google's goal is, and not worry about Google. So if you could just imagine that Google didn't exist and forget about Google and focus on pleasing people and making things make sense. And here's a real quick hack for making sure your website makes sense. It needs to answer 3 key questions. Okay. The first question, and this SEOs will tell you this should be your H1 tag. It should be an H1 tag, which means the first level heading, right? In HTML. It should mention property management and should mention a keyword. But if you're pleasing people, it would be, we manage rental properties or single family homes or condos or whatever it is or whatever type of management you do, commercial, in such and such place, or we are, Phoenix, Arizona's premier property manager or something. It needs to mention property managed in some way. Google's smart and knows like different versions of these words. And it needs to mention the location, right? Because people's first question when they land on your site is, I'll put a question mark here. I'm not going to write the whole thing. Do you do what I need you to do? Do you do what I need you to do in the area that I need you to do it? And there's a lot of people's websites I've noticed over the years that don't even answer this question. They go to the site and it's like, property management, might be mentioned. Sometimes it's like, we're a real estate company and we do property management, but there's no clear, bold headline for a consumer to read above the fold, which means when you first land on the page, not down below, right? When you first land on the page, it says this. That's the first question. All right. 3 keys. All right. This is the first thing is mention where you do property management, that you do property management, right? Second, and you'll see this on all of our clients' websites that we've done. Second question people have once they figure out that you do what they need in the area they need it is answer the question, why should I choose you to do it over everybody else? What is in it for me? Right? What's in it for me? What benefit are you going to give me? Right? What do people want? Maybe peace of mind. Nobody wants property management. Property management is the vehicle to get people what they want. It's not what they want. People don't wake up in the morning and go, man, I'm so excited to get a property manager today. What they want is property management is like the flight to Hawaii, right? Nobody talks about the flight. They talk about Hawaii, right? So what do they want? Peace of mind concerning your rental property, eliminate the headaches, some stuff like this, right? So this is the second question that you need to answer above the fold. And then the whole rest of the site's going to go into greater detail related to all of this stuff, at least on the homepage. The third question that you need to answer once they know what you do and where you do it, and that you can help them with what they need and why they should choose you over your competitors to do it, because you can help eliminate the headaches. You're the best, whatever you think is true, right? The third is, cool, what is the next logical step that I would be willing to take? You need to ask that question. What's the next logical step they'll be willing to take? The third question is, what do I do next? What do you want me to do? Okay. What do you want me to do next? That would make sense, right? So maybe on your homepage, the call to action is like, check out our pricing, right? That would be a very easy, logical next step. Maybe on your pricing page, it's like, contact us to get started, right? Or fill out this lead capture form that we have. Might be a call to action later on your page, but on your site, these are going to be above the fold, and below the fold, you're going to go into greater detail related to all these 3 things, right? We're pleasing people. Ironically, if you do this very effectively and there's decent content and it's chunked and it makes sense and it's easy to digest, because that's what people like. People don't like reading giant paragraphs of text. Anybody love when a tenant sends you a giant paragraphs of text? No. When they could have just said, leak, need help, and you're like, turn off the water, right? So, yeah, instead of the whole story, right? So we want this to have headlines so they can do that. We need content that is skimmable, that then explains each of those things in case they have deeper questions. So we want to chunk the content. We want to please people. Ironically, this is what works well for SEO too. There needs to be a decent amount of content on the page. We're not trying to stuff a bunch of keywords and mention Phoenix, Arizona like 500 times, but we do want some information about the area that you manage and that you help investors in that area and stuff like that, right? Down below the fold. Okay. So some of the, and if anybody has any questions related to any of this, go ahead and throw it in the chat. So hopefully this is helpful. Now, as far as like content marketing on your site, like adding content, creating blog articles, stuff like this, you want to make sure you're answering real questions. So one site that that you'll see mentioned on social media sometimes, or that we've used, we have a membership to this, answer thepublic.com, or you can just do Google searches. Anyone ever start typing Google search and then it like starts trying to figure out what you're going to say next? You're like, why is? And then it's like Tom Cruise weird, you know, or whatever, right? It's like, you're like, oh, I don't know. Now I'm curious about that, right? So it starts trying to figure stuff out. So you can also use Google to figure out this, but you want to figure out what questions people have related to your search results. And that's this kind of stuff because you're pleasing people, right? So we want to then answer people's questions. You can make a list right now of all the questions that tenants have asked you, owners have asked you, different things. And if you start creating content around this to help people, Google's going to start noticing that you're helpful and they're going to send stuff your way. Now, another thing that a lot of marketers won't tell you about ranking with Google, Google owns this video site. Has anybody heard of it? It's called YouTube. Okay. You've probably heard of it, right? And YouTube actually gets more searches than Google does. So for a lot of keywords, Google gets more searches. And so creating video content can be helpful if it's content related to questions that people have or related to your market, or it's helpful to real estate investors and stuff like that. And so really, you know your customers, you know the questions, just start paying attention when people ask you questions. Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to make a video about that. And you don't have to be super cute or super clever. You just say, hey, hi, this is Fred over at XYZ Property Management. And this week I've noticed I've gotten a lot of this question and I wanted to answer this question. How do you choose a property manager, or how do you do this or whatever? And you start explaining and answering questions related to what people are asking. And Answer the Public's one tool you could look at. You can look at Google and see what sort of keywords might be relevant or what questions people might have. You could even go maybe on ChatGPT and say, give me a list of 100 questions I could answer for videos as prompts. You can even ask it to create video hooks at the beginning, because videos are 80% hook and 10% content. You got to get people to actually want to watch it. So the hook is the beginning that you say. If you hang out to the end of this webinar, I'm going to show you why you may not even need to worry about SEO, right? That's a decent hook, right? Okay. Any questions related to any of this? I know I'm going kind of fast. Okay. If so, throw it in the chat. So we talked about white hat, black hat. We talked about the foundational principle of pleasing people, being useful, adding value, making people stay. And then let's touch on just briefly AI. We are in the middle of an AI revolution right now. So it's crazy. There's so many new software tools, and the software industry has just gone nuts because anyone with an imagination can create something now with AI. You can immediately create any image that you want, as ridiculous as it sounds. Give me a puppy with a snake tied around its neck wearing a party hat, and it'll you can make it right in ChatGPT, right? Software is also sped up. And so there's tons of AI tools, tons of AI this and that. What I think AI is going to do is it's going to create a lot more SEO content, a lot. There's people already leveraging it. Google's now trying to battle. People are shifting their search volume away from Google to getting information through tools like ChatGPT or Grok or Google's whatever one, or et cetera, or Bing. They're using these chat tools because you can just ask questions. I got a new car recently and I was like, how do I do these things this is my car. How do I do these things? Because I didn't want to read through the owner's manual, and it gave me step-by-step directions how to program on my phone or do different things I needed to do. Right. So a lot of people are skipping search engines and not using them. Now, these chat tools will use search engines to search for things. But again, you need content there that's pleasing people. So does it make sense to go and just get AI tools that'll write a whole bunch of content and just go crazy? Probably not. Maybe, but probably not. The reason is that these search engines are also really good because ChatGPT and some of these tools uses certain words and language that are pretty strong indicators to the search engines that this is SEO content. And so there are tools that you can plug stuff into and it'll judge whether it's SEO or whether it's not. but some of these tools aren't super accurate or have challenges too. So I think this is somewhat of a dangerous game to play, at least right now, because, you know, it might be white hat right now, but again, this will probably be somewhat black hat. I think there's going to be, you know, some sort of premium value on human created stuff, which is always inherently flawed, and human created content and human actual interaction. There's going to be a premium on that. And I highly recommend you don't use AI tools to lie or fake or pretend that you have done something. So for example, if you have a chat tool on your website, don't say, this is Susan, our, you know, operator, like who chats with everybody, and it's a real person. And then it's like people start throwing in prompts or cues and stuff, and then it starts acting like a robot and they can screw around with it, right? Or does stuff. Because then people will be like, oh, they tricked me. Nobody wants to be tricked, right? So we don't want to trick people. So we want to get it, you know, we want leverage, we want to get help, but we don't want to like create some sort of disconnect where we've kind of burned our, like, you know, messed up our SEO or burned relationships or bridges, yeah, with potential prospects. So just be careful with that. I think SEO is really powerful thing to be doing with right now is to just, like Iron Man uses his super suit, to use it to make some of your stuff go faster, or to collapse time on learning, or to just supplement or amplify some of your efforts, right? And I think that's where the advantage is. But the face-to-face, the human-to-human contact, the direct messages, all that, I think the deeper you go in business with this AI revolution, the more results and money you'll make. This is not about spray and pray, it's about depth. And so this applies to SEO, this applies to closing deals, but the more, it's going to put a premium on depth. And the more deep and the more relationship oriented you get with each prospect, the better the results you will get. I have recently, I told some of my clients on our Wednesday coaching call where we're coaching on growth, I have gotten more deals closed in the last month or two by shifting my appointments, my sales calls, from being 30 minutes to 50 minutes with a 10-hour gap. I mean, a 10-minute gap. So 50 minutes. I'm doing 1 hour basically with people and my close rate has gone up. That means I can talk to half as many people. So let that sink in. If you talk to half as many people, but you spent more depth and more time with them, could your close rate also go up? And so for me, that's been absolutely true. It allows me to get deeper into their pain, deeper into their challenges, map out things a little bit more detailed, you know, so I can help them see how we can support them. And it helps build more relationship. And so that's all I'll say about that. If you want to see how crazy AI has gotten, there are sites. I mentioned this, Yair, like this, right? Yair. Did you play around with that? How many software did you buy on there, Yair?
Nothing yet, but there is one that I like about like creating a virtual courses.
Okay. So there's this site called appsumo.com I've used for years and years. I've met the creator at some Austin events. So basically software companies will create software, and then in order to get funding or get money to like kind of build it out and pay for team and to grow, because going from solopreneur to a team is hard, right? They will go to places like AppSumo and say, hey, I will give some ridiculous deal to these early adopters that will buy my tool or software. And you can pay like, sometimes it's like $37 for a lifetime license to use our web-based software or whatever. And so you get these ridiculous deals, but some, like probably half of these businesses will fail in the first year or 5, right? Like 90% of businesses fail in the first 5 years, they say. So a lot of them will fail. So some of them will just do it as a cash grab and then close doors and, you know, stuff like this. But you might get some lucky deals, and then some of them will offer some crazy deal, but then they'll release all of these cool new features and you've got this lifetime account, but they will say, oh, well, if you want these cool new features, you have to upgrade to our more current plans, you know? And so they get you to pay. So But if you want to look on here, what's really crazy, if you go on here and just look at all the AI related tools, it's like gone crazy. There's just tons out there. You can go on directories online that have lists of AI tools, and there's thousands and thousands. Like, it's getting ridiculous. So there's really this AI revolution, and eventually some of these things will stand out. The cream will rise to the top, and several will fail, and there'll be some aggregation going on, and it'll be really interesting to see. So, okay. So let's talk about pipeline leaks, right? Well, let's talk about cold leads, warm leads. Some of you see me talk about this before, but I want to touch on this real quick because not all leads are equal. Not cold, it's cold. Cold leads, warm leads. Okay. This is a fire, and this is a ice cube. Here we go. It's sort of an ice cube. It's a lumpy ice cube. All right. So warm versus cold leads. So what I want you to understand is that the only thing that internet marketers can generally deliver to you are cold leads. And cold leads usually have like a 10% or worse close rate when all said and done. You're going to have a lot of tire kickers, time wasters, a lot of garbage. You're going to get some plumbers. You're going to get some maintenance people reaching out. And the challenge is, the big secret or challenge is time. These take up a lot of time because in order to get somebody from cold to warm, you have to nurture them. You have to warm them up. You have to build trust, create relationship in order to close the deal. And so the challenge is warm leads take way less time, right? Usually people will say it takes like a third or maybe half the amount of time, right? There's my clock. But the close rate on warm leads, what if you get a warm referral from a real estate agent that says you are the best property manager in the area, and they send over their client that super trusts them, what do you think your close rate is going to be on deals like that? Anyone? You're probably saying, I get every single one, right? Let's be conservative and say it's like 90%. So these are opposite. So if you went and bought like from APM or focused heavily on SEO and you got 10 colder leads, these are people at the end of the sales cycle searching on the internet, and they find you, and you got 10 leads, or you got 5 warm leads from a referral, which one would you rather have? John's raising his hand. Yeah, 5. All right. Who would hold up a 5 if you'd rather have the 5? Hold up both hands, 10 if you'd rather have the 10. All right. Cool. Why? Because let's say you'll probably get 5 deals, but let's be conservative and say you'll get 4 deals out of this, and they'll probably be earlier in the sales cycle. So you'll have lower operational costs on these. There'll be less of the cheapo owners. There'll be more of the normals, or maybe even premiums if they're reaching out for help. They definitely are. Those are premium buyers sometimes. And then, because they don't want to do it themselves. And then, but if they're cold leads, you will probably maybe get 1. Let's say you're a badass at sales, you get maybe 2, right? Or 3. But the challenge is these are worse owners. They're more difficult to deal with. They're going to try and micromanage you, and they're going to have probably more difficult rental properties and stuff like this, right? So, yeah. And this is over in the depth category, right? There's less depth, less relationship in the cold, and you have to build that and create that. So it just takes a lot more time. And if you were to spend all the time, let's say it takes 2 to 3 hours to like move somebody fully through the sales cycle, and maybe that's like 3 or 4 calls with them and like going and seeing the properties and all this kind of stuff. But it takes just longer because they're like tire kickers. They're asking questions. They want to know if you're good, and like they don't trust you yet, right? So this could be potentially like a full-time job. Just 10 leads could be maybe even like 30 hours a week or something, right? If you have 10 leads every week that you're focusing on, or you may not have the bandwidth for that. So the other secret here is like, if you want sustainable, easy growth, and this is how one of our secrets for how we help scale companies is we want more of the warm leads, because you don't have to be good at sales with warm leads. You don't have to be cute or clever. You don't have to do a ton of follow-up. The sales cycle is much shorter, and because the trust level is already so much higher. And there's several different ways to create warm leads. We have lots of different strategies that we get into, but that's kind of the idea. Now let's talk about another challenge related to if you're doing a bunch of SEO or you're getting people into your funnel. Let's talk about the pipeline leaks just real quick as well. So let's say we've got this big hose here, and this hose represents your sales pipeline. And at this end of the hose, we have some sort of faucet or spigot, and it usually has the handles things. And I don't know, I'm trying to draw here. And then this is the end of the hose, right? And at the other end, we're hoping to water our business, which we've got this plant over here. And and we want this hopefully to grow and bear fruit, right? We want things out of the business. We want fulfillment, freedom, money, contribution, like et cetera. We're hoping to get some fruit, and then maybe we can reinvest that into this pipeline. And now we've made a money machine, right? That's what we want our business to be. So we can invest that back into it. The problem is the spigot here, this is lead gen, right? This is generating leads. The more you turn it on, the more leads come into the pipeline. If they are not good leads, they can clog up your pipeline because you'll be spending so much time following up and trying to talk to people, and you're just spending so much time with all this garbage in your pipeline that the pipeline eventually clogs like a clogged artery. But the bigger challenge we see is that there's leaks in this pipeline that businesses can't see. These are like blind spots, and there's 6 major leaks. This is why there's not a lot coming out the other end, and the tree is starving, and you're not getting the fruit, and it's not healthy, and it's not growing. Why you've struggled to grow for years, even if you've started doing all this internet marketing stuff. And so these are things that we tackle initially with clients at DoorGrow to just clean up some of the mess. So one of these leaks we often see is pricing. If you're like 10% or $100 flat fee or something like most companies, your pricing is probably a big leak because you look like everybody else. And then we've got your online reviews can be a big leak. So we need a strategy and a system for how to consistently get the majority of our tenants and owners to give us good reviews. Branding is usually at the outset. There's a lot of companies that are branded as a real estate business, and they're wondering why they're not getting more of these warm lead referrals from real estate agents, right? So branding can be an issue, or maybe you just have a name that's generic, or you have one of these terrible franchise names like PMI, Property Management Inc., or Real Property Management, or whatever. But there's a lot of challenges related to branding that we help clients clean up. And so our program for dialing in all these leaks is we call the rapid revamp. It's like Bar Rescue, if you've ever seen the show, for property management. We're cleaning up the front end of the business. So we've got reviews, we've got pricing. A big thing is purpose. This is why most of the solopreneurs have such a difficult time transitioning to having a team, and why so many businesses get stuck in the 200 to 400 door range with bad team members. They think they have a good team, but they can't break 600 doors because they never got this piece really well dialed in. Culture is everything once you have a team. And so you don't attract believers, and you attract hiders, and hiders want to just basically steal from you and take your money and do as little work as possible and get paid as much as possible, right? Or they're just not A players, right? They're just not great. There's also the sales pitch. And what am I missing here? Pricing, purpose, the website. The website. If you want to see how good your website is, if you're like, man, we have a new website, or it's great, or whatever, go to doorgrow.com/quiz and take that test and just see. It'll grade your website, and you'll get a letter grade. So if you do not get an A or at least a B, you have a big leak here and you're hemorrhaging money. So now I want you to imagine that at each of these stages, you have a percentage. So let's say you've got a real estate brand or some generic branding or whatever, and let's say this is only 50%. So even before people ever call you, the perception is, oh, they're not a specialist. Let's go find somebody else. And you're losing 50% of the deals and leads you could be getting, and you're just not even aware that you're missing out on them. And let's say your website, you go and take your quiz and you get a 50% on this, which is an F, by the way, right? So your website's failing. but it's not converting well, doesn't answer the 3 core questions. It's like doesn't have, social proof and testimonials and trust symbols and all the elements that make a website convert more and create more trust. Let's say your pricing is typical to everybody else in the market, so you're not competitive there. So maybe that's a leak, right? So if you imagine this funnel of like 100 leads coming through and you lose half, so then you're at 50 at the outset, and then they see your website and as part of that, and you lose half of those. So they aren't filling out the lead forms, or you're not capturing them. And then they see your reviews. They're like, well, let's check out their reviews. So the reviews are bad, which this may actually be the first one they look at sometimes. And so you've got, maybe you're like 3.5 or whatever stars on Google and Yelp and Facebook and everywhere else. And so maybe you're losing half the amount of deals and leads there, right? So now you're down to like 12 or 13. Like, you can see how these leaks, especially if you have a larger company, you have a lot of stuff flowing through. It doesn't make sense to try and turn this on full blast, especially to do SEO, if you haven't first fixed all the leaks. This is like trying to do a blood transfusion. Like, let's go get something extra and supplement this while your arm is chopped off and you haven't stopped the bleeding, right? So we need to eliminate the bleeding. We need to stop the big leaks. Purpose. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, Simon Sinek says. And so the challenge here is that you're trying to sell property management, so you're selling incorrectly, so your pitch is off, and you don't have a solid pitch that's really effective. And then your purpose stuff, which goes into that, also doesn't attract the right team members because you haven't made this clear. Because the default purpose people know you have is that you want money. And if that's what they believe you want from them, that's the default assumption in sales, that you just want their money, they're not going to trust you as much as the next guy or gal, right? And so this is really what sets you apart. This is really what makes you unique. This is really how your business gets built around you. So you become more healthy in your business the bigger it gets, instead of more stuck and more frustrated and more annoyed by your team and saying, why won't they just think for themselves? It's because of a lack of clarity there. And so if we can get all 6 of these things dialed in, and this is our rapid revamp class for those that are interested in this, this would make sense before you go start wasting 1,000, 2,000, even 5,000 or whatever you're spending with marketers a month. It would make way more sense to spend some time, money, and energy doing the rapid revamp first. Once you do that, what's better than SEO would then be to focus on warm leads. And so then we would focus on the growth accelerator. And we would, in our growth accelerator in our mastermind, we would then focus on warm lead strategies that stack some of our different growth principles, so you can grow faster and faster with each tactic and ideology that you stack. You start to grow faster and faster. You're dealing with less tire kickers and time wasters, less cold leads, and you're dealing with more investors that are not like one-offs with one property. They're going to only stay 1 year, like an accidental investor. We're dealing with better clients that are doing deals on the regular. Some of my clients are getting a lot more deals from their existing clients because they just went after the right clients, because these clients are investors that are doing deals every year, multiple deals a year, and they have multiple doors. So this collapses. So this is another principle I'll share with you real quick. How much time we got? We're about done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much, but that's okay.
All right. Deals, doors, duration. These are the 4 Ds, or 4 doors. These are doorknobs, making doorknobs, and dollars. These are the 4 Ds to revenue. These are 4 numbers when multiplied equal the gross revenue in your business. Okay. And so we want, the ideal clients are not going to be people that are going to do 1 deal with you. They're only going to stay 1 year, and they only have 1 door, and they're super cheap, right? We'll just make a 1, but they're super cheap. And so the challenge here is, if we're focused on the wrong type of owners, this can be really bad. If we focus on the wrong owners, the right owners, we focus on the right owners, they might be a 10-year buy and hold. Maybe they already have 10 doors. Maybe they're doing 10 deals, or they're bringing multiple deals to the table during the duration of them working with you, right? And so the amount, and maybe they're more, and we'll just do a 10 here for kicks, and they're willing to spend more money. We want at least $100 a door, right? Nobody does it for $1 or 10, but So the numbers get a lot bigger, a lot quicker. And this is one of our secrets in how we help clients grow even faster is we take strategies like this, we take strategies like this, we take strategies like this and several others, and we start stacking these ideas. And so growth then can happen faster and faster and faster as we shore up these things and make each thing more efficient. So rather than search engine optimization, what I recommend is optimize your business. Do business optimization. This is what we do at DoorGrow. And then if you're adding doors quickly, soon it breaks. We do this to every client. The business starts to fall apart, and then they stop. And if you stop adding doors, anybody ever start adding so many doors you stop doing it? Some of my clients should raise their hand. I know you have. All right. So then what happens if you stop? It's minimum a 6 month to a year lack of momentum and progress every time. And so what I see happen in this industry, especially around the 200 door mark, or maybe between 200 to 400 doors, I see people add doors and then they go like, we got to fulfill and get team members and do all this. And they stop and pause the growth stuff. And then they're struggling. And then they got all these team members and they had like some doors are like selling and they're like, oh man, we got to go back and focus on growth. And these companies do not grow year after year after year. They stay somewhere like around this 200 to 400 door range, kind of stuck, and they can't break the 600 door barrier. And they think the problem is that they just need maybe more leads or better systems or better processes. And I have a whole training called the process myth on this, a masterclass we did. But the real thing that I've noticed is digging into their business is they need better people and they don't know it. And that's where this piece really becomes critical is you can't have a great team built around the wrong person. And if you don't have clarity on your purpose and you don't have clarity on your company values and your clarity on why you do what you do, then you're going to build the wrong team. And you're going to keep the wrong hats on in your business. And you're going to then build a team around the wrong person. And you cannot build the right team around the wrong person. And you cannot out-process. You cannot create enough processes, KPIs, metrics, etc., to make a mediocre team perform great. It's impossible. So these are some of the things that will help you clean up with at DoorGrow. So if we're going to wrap up, hopefully this has been helpful to create a very different perspective on SEO. Was this helpful? Give me thumbs up. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Because I don't want you to get trapped or manipulated by marketers that are like, oh, well, you got to do this Google Ads thing, or you got to do this. Why? Well, then you show up at the top of Google. Right? Well, why do I need to make all these, like create all these blog articles or do these uncomfortable videos? Oh, well, for SEO, you may not even need to have any ranking position on Google in order to have a company that's adding at least 100, maybe 200, maybe 300 doors a year. We have clients doing it and they don't have the top spot on Google. And if you haven't added those kind of door numbers, you haven't added at least 100 doors in the last year, then you probably just have a broken growth engine. And instead of doing search engine optimization, we need to do growth engine optimization in your business. Okay. Growth engine. So we want GEO. Okay. Yeah.
So how do you do like the whiteboard that you're using? Is it a tablet? And then
JB, send me a message on Telegram. You're one of the clients. And so
he's not in our mastermind.
Oh, you're not in the mastermind yet?
No,
oh, JB, you got to join.
I know,
all right.
right?
So this is an app called Notability. Notability. And I have an Apple Pencil. So cool. All right. So anyone else have any other questions? All right. We got to wrap up. So reach out to us. Check us out at doorgrow.com if you're not yet a client. And let's start getting these things optimized in your business and get your growth engines optimized. And you will not have to worry about shelling out any money to these marketers anymore. We're able to help people eliminate their advertising expenses, eliminate all these things you're spending money on to try and grow your business and grow faster. And because doing the right stuff in your business doesn't really cost a whole lot of money as far as advertising goes. And we're a lot cheaper than spending thousands and thousands of dollars not getting results. We'll help you get results. All right. So that's it for today. Hopefully this was helpful. A very different take on SEO. And If you are interested, connect with us. And until next time, to our mutual growth. Bye, everyone.